Hey there, it is Dusty Thunder with another Reddit story for you. This one's a spicy one. Let's figure out how spicy. It is titled, Am I the Astronaut for Letting My Daughter Keep Her Room? My 47 male daughter, Stacy, 15 female, has one of the 2 rooms in my house with an en-suite bathroom. It's a largest room with a nice bay window, obviously very nice. I've recently become engaged to my girlfriend of 3 years, Alice, 33 female, and her landlord has recently hiked her rent, so we're planning to have her move in with me. She has some kids. She has 2 daughters, 13 female, 10 female, and 2 sons, 11 male, 9 male. She's also pregnant, with our daughter due in about 5 months. I've made it absolutely clear to my daughter as a condition of getting her approval on moving my girlfriend in that she is allowed to keep her room, and she is also allowed to have a full lock on her door. For what it's worth, I also got my son's 24 male blessing to give away his old room. Although that's more of a moot point. It's a moot point. It's Cal's opinion, as he lives with his own girlfriend now. My daughter plans to go to school locally, and I have told her in no uncertain terms that she's welcome to live at home for the rest of my life and that she can inherit the house. I bought the house with her mother and paid it off with a large part of her mother's life insurance 10 years ago, so it only seems fair. She says she's all right as long as she has her room and her bathroom, and she's allowed to put a lock on her door. She even has a toaster oven and a mini fridge in there, so I guess she's pretty well set up. Stacy will be giving up a room that she's currently using as a studio project space. She does art, videos, and voiceovers, so even her larger room will become a bit more cramped, and she'll definitely need the extra space she has. There will be a bedroom for Alice's girls, Stacy's old project room, and Alice's boys will be getting my son's old room. I'm going to be putting in a finished nursery/bedroom in the basement for our new daughter. Alice thinks that this is unfair. She thinks it was wrong of me to make the decision without her, and she also thinks that she should move her 2 daughters into Stacy's room, and that Stacy would have to move to the smaller room that they'll be getting. The 2 of them already share a smaller room than the one I'm moving them into as it is, so they're getting an upgrade regardless. Alice thinks that it's not fair for Stacy to have a bathroom all to herself, and that there won't be enough bathrooms for everyone else. She also disapproves of Stacy being able to lock everyone out. There were other small things she didn't like that I agreed to with Stacy. The fact that she's able to be paid for any babysitting, or the fact that my older car, her mom's old car, is hers when she gets her driver's license. We'll have our own bathroom in the master bedroom, and the house has 3 other bathrooms besides, 1 on each floor. 1 near what will be her girls' room, 1 not far from what will be the boys' room, and 1 that will basically be directly next to the new finished room. I told Alice that my deal with Stacy is non-negotiable, set in stone, and that it's literally a condition of her even moving in. Alice is upset that Stacy and I both have spaces completely dedicated to ourselves. I have my office, which I need because I work from home and have projects besides, and there aren't a whole lot of other spaces to put people. I told her she can pretty much do what she wants in the living room, but that is what it is, and there's pretty much nothing to be done about it. A bigger house is not an option unless Alice is going to start making a hell of a lot more money and buy her own bigger house. It's already a pretty big house, and housing is expensive. I told her that she's already getting a break, but my only expectation is her to contribute 15 to 20% of household bills. If we're doing it proportionately, it would be more like 25 to 30%. We keep separate finances, and we've agreed to a prenup. Alice just seems upset that I won't change the setup even though there's no real way to change it, and she's accused me of treating Stacy like a spoiled little princess and letting her be the queen of the house. There's the real issue. Frankly, my daughter comes first. She's lived here all of her life, and I already know it's going to be a big adjustment having all these other kids move in. As much as I love Alice, and as much as I want our relationship to work out, if it's a matter of choosing between the 2 of them, then my relationship with Alice is a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I've told her that if she comes into this with wicked stepmother vibes, that will be the end of things. She thinks I'm being unreasonable. Am I the astronaut? We have an update. Before we get into that update, yes, this is Cinderella vibes 100%. Everything is super reasonable that he's doing. He's like, with the context of how this house has been paid off, I feel like it's only right to keep it within this side of the family. I get it. Like, I understand everything that OP is saying here, and it all seems reasonable. Somebody coming in and being upset that they're being given things like, hello, entitlement, right? It's a matter of control. And she's already seeing that his daughter has a higher place than she does with him. So it's a matter of control. All right, here's the update. I got a lot of eye-opening insight and advice from my post, so I feel it's worth giving everyone an update, especially considering developments. First, to address a few questions that seemed to keep coming up before I lost the ability to read each and every reply, although I'm still trying. My son, 24 male, is my child from a previous relationship before I met and married my late wife. He has his own provisions in my will, but he's quite aware that the house goes to his sister. My own sister is to become guardian of my daughter if anything should happen to me. I love my sister as dearly as I love anyone, and she and her niece love each other and get along great. I trust her completely if, God forbid, anything should happen. Yes, the basement is an unusual place for a nursery, but I was just trying to make people fit where they could go. The move was supposed to be happening within a month, and Alice's older kids needed rooms now. Meanwhile, the baby isn't going to be born for about 5 months, so she could go into a room that isn't made yet. Or you could get a room downstairs for the older kids to go into, and then that room could become the nursery. But I understand you have a complicated situation, sir. I honestly figured we could keep a crib in our room for a bit, and after that, it's no big deal for a kid to have her own room and a finished basement. Also, honestly, I don't want to move my office. It's been where it is forever, and I don't want to move it. I can admit that. We've had the beginnings and groundwork for a finished basement since forever, but there was never any reason to really put a move on it. It was a big change to go from having more room than we need to just me and Stacy rattling around in the house to suddenly scrambling for space and not having enough. It was the obvious spot where an additional bedroom could go, but not a spot where a bedroom is now. Alice and I had talked about marriage and children more or less in the abstract on many occasions, and we both wanted to get married at some point if things continued to work out, and I wanted to have more children, although this pregnancy was quite unexpected. It was Alice's pregnancy combined with the rent hike on her place that accelerated the timetable on things. For what it's worth, the rent hike is real. I've seen the paperwork, and I have literally no reason to suspect the baby is not mine. But yes, the only reason why we got engaged so recently is because Alice got pregnant. The only reason why Alice and her kids would be moving in with me so suddenly is because she was likely to need to move somewhere, and I'd obviously like to be responsible for or be near or raise my coming daughter. To me, it made sense for my daughter to live with me. I never wanted to be an absentee part-time parent or to not have time to share space with my child. The circumstances all made sense, at least until now. I was definitely wary of Alice and paying more attention to her, especially after the many comments that I read. I came to Reddit to get a sanity check on whether or not I was being an asshole about my conditions with Stacy, not to try to actually make any kind of major life or relationship changes, but I didn't want to turn a blind eye either. It was Friday and Stacy texted me asking for an allowance. I was with Alice at the time. I went ahead and let the subject come up. I give Stacy $100 a week. Alice thinks that this is crazy and excessive. She thinks it's improper, and she's brought it up as an example of how she thinks I'm raising Stacy like a spoiled princess. She said as much again when I told her I was sending Stacy her allowance, but this time Alice also asked if her kids would get the same allowance after we get married. I told her that someday our new daughter would probably get an allowance just like Stacy does, but that there was no way I had any plans of shelling out an extra $400 a week for her other kids. Alice got upset. She said that Stacy wastes my money on shoes and makeup. She has previously criticized Stacy for wearing fancy sneakers, high heels, and makeup, and she said that I was showing favoritism and that is a form of abuse. She complained about me letting Stacy buy things with my credit card and store my credit card on her phone when I don't even let Alice do that. She said that whatever money was going to the kids should be split up evenly amongst them. When I shrugged and told her that wasn't going to happen, and that I wasn't going to cut Stacy's allowance, she snapped at me and said that a man living alone with his daughter and doting on her, like I do, is creepy and incestuous. And she said, "You've just replaced your dead wife with your daughter, and you need to stop." That was it. Sure, I've ignored a lot of red flags up till now, but that was it. She started trying to tell me about how it's unhealthy for me to be so close with Stacy and how she didn't want her kids to be neglected and how she wanted to be treated as an equal if we were getting married, but I interrupted her and I told her that I don't think we should be getting married. I told her I don't want her moving in and that we were going to need to work something else out. To be perfectly honest, my sister, my brother, and some of my friends have expressed some of the same misgivings about Alice that I've read, although they were generally a lot more gentle with it. I was in love with her. In fact, I'm still in love with her, and I wasn't seeing things clearly. I've told her I would always and definitely make sure that our child had a roof over her head, but that she was going to have to work something out for herself and her kids on her own. Obviously, we had a huge fight. She screamed at me. She called me a heartless bastard. She blamed Stacy for trying to sabotage our relationship. She guilt-tripped me about the high cost of living and how I'm in an empty house all by myself. She also guilt-tripped me about the stress on the baby, and I actually do feel bad and worry about that. She eventually broke down crying and told me to leave. In the past 10 years, this was the first relationship with a woman I've had that became serious. I love her, and this hurts. It hurts a hell of a lot. I told Stacy that she didn't have to bother moving her stuff out of her room, that Alice wasn't coming, and we hugged. She asked if this was her fault, and I told her no. I told her I honestly feel like marrying Alice would have been a huge mistake, even if the two of them could have been best buddies. I always wanted to have a few more kids, and I've missed having a wife, but things don't always happen the way we want. So I'm pretty sure my relationship with Alice is effectively over, even if we're going to be raising a child together for the foreseeable future. My new daughter can have my son's old room whenever we work out whatever custody agreement we end up working out. I'm not sorry to be having another kid, even if I really wish the circumstances could be better. The red flags were always there. I guess it's better that I noticed them now instead of later. Thank goodness. And to expand on some feedback here, we have the very lovely Candy Thunder.
There's something, I'm going to say it. I feel like if you've already had 4 kids, which is what she has, correct? That you're very aware of how to get pregnant, and very aware of how not to get pregnant. And to me, it seems like
I don't understand. Could you expand?
She baby trapped the guy.
Subject?
I think she baby trapped him. I was trying to be nice, but she baby trapped him. Because
that's not what I was looking for you to expand upon. But
yeah,
okay.
I think that she saw an opportunity and took it. And I don't say that lightly. But she wanted to dictate everything about this guy and how he was parenting his daughter. And you creating a blended family is not something that happens overnight. You don't walk into a household where there's already established things going on and uproot those things and take things away and try to dominate a child that already has like a routine and like a rhythm in the household. Like, you do not do that. That is a surefire way to make sure that your family will never blend, because at that point, his significant other is now the cause of her pain. She has now caused all of this stuff to happen in the daughter's eyes. So therefore, those two people are never going to get along. And his daughter was what, 16, 17?
Yeah, 16.
And she was trying to control the 16, 17-year-old relationship with those two. So I just feel like she did the opposite. It's further down.
Further down?
Okay, sorry. It disappeared from the outline. I can't find it.
Let's just look.
15.
Okay. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, and someone had said something about allowances being equal, and that only works, like, you can't just move in and say this allowance should be equal because I'm moving into your home. They weren't even married yet. Like, at some point they had to have a discussion about how that would look. What would his role be in her kids, the younger kids' lives? Like, if you and I were dating and I ended up pregnant, I would never move my kids in and be like, now give them $100 a week. Like, that's selfish. That feels entitled. Like, that is not how you blend a family.
Right.
Alice had no plans of blending this family. She was moving in, she wanted control, and she wanted money.
Yeah.
And
I was thinking that's what I was thinking the whole time. I'm like, the way that blended families happen when it's done the right way is I fall in love with you, I fall in love with your child or children. Mm-hmm. Then we blend families.
Yeah.
He said in the very beginning, the only reason that they're together is because she got pregnant. The only reason they got engaged because she got pregnant. The only reason that he was looking to move her in because she got pregnant. That needs to be a spinoff. Because I got pregnant.
That is not in my eyes, and other people may have different opinions, but to me, that is not a good enough reason for marriage.
No.
You can parent separately without getting married. And I understand that it's more difficult, but pregnancy is not marriage is not the answer to pregnancy.
Right.
I firmly believe that, because I feel like pregnancy is freaking hard. Newborns are incredibly difficult, and like all of that combined with the first year of marriage,
that's hard. My biggest issue with, I think, the lesson that we learned when societally it was the standard or the norm or the expectation that if you got pregnant, you got married, is so many kids growing up in homes with unhappy parents because they got married because she was pregnant and they didn't love each other, but they stayed in it and set the bar for what kids perceived to be a successful or happy marriage or what love is. And it got so into the ground that now we're like, you know what? That's probably not right. I probably need to set a better example for my kids for what they should expect for themselves, for what they should choose, for what love is. And then we started fixing it. And that's where I think blended families became more common. But yes, exactly. She didn't try to blend a family. She tried a hostile takeover of an existing half a family that could be blended. She had a mark.
There was also this weird, like, she felt like she was competing with his 15-year-old daughter. And I'm like, lady, you're double her age, more than double her age. Why do you feel the need to compete with a 15-year-old? So she was wearing heels, so she was wearing makeup. Like,
yeah.
Who cares? She's 15.
Well, it was the first step in alienation. I feel like that was it. It was a very transparent play for her to drive a wedge, because she needs to drive a wedge between them if she's going to complete her ultimate mission, which is to have her kids be fully provided for by him.
And it sounds like he was trying to do that. Like, he was trying to provide for her kids. He was bringing them in. He was making space for them.
Yeah.
And doing all those things, but like, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't fast enough. And she thought that she could come between dad and daughter. I'm really glad that the dad did stand up for his daughter and didn't. Moving this woman into his house would have been incredibly toxic.
Yeah.
And I think he probably saw red flags, but continued down that path.
That's my problem with him.
He said that he loved her, and love is blind. I mean, I think that I do think that love is blind. You can get blind to seeing things right in front of your face that you would recognize in other people's relationships, but you do not see in your own.
Cece's mess.
Yeah.
And New Girl.
Cece's a slob.
Cece's a slob. Yeah.
Nope, I agree. I'm very glad that this dad stood up for his daughter.
Agreed.
And that he did see it before it was too late, and did damage that was irreparable.
Yeah. Way to go, Dad.
Can you imagine?
You let it go on too long, but way to go.
If I moved Ava in, like when we first got together, and I was like, money. Money.
What's her allowance going to be?
She needs the big room.
What's her? That's something that as you blend a family,
she needs a bigger bed.
You find common ground on how you're going to handle all those things, and you do have to discuss it, and it gets complicated to figure all that out along the way, but you do it together.